Now we're going to talk about barrier options. We'll use a numerical example and take a level of the euro-dollar at 125. And let's use a European exporter who wants to hedge for an increase in the euro-dollar above 130, its target price, in 1 year. If the exporter wants to buy an option, then the cost of the premium is 294 pips on a volatility of 10%. So this means that to hedge a risk of 100 million euros, the exporter, or the treasurer, will have to invest $2.94 million. So their break-even strategy will be at 132.94. That's at the 130 plus 294 pips. So it's at this moment when buying the option will become profitable. But let's think about an exporting company which is exposed to currency risks that have sometimes over $500 billion of currency exposures. For example, large aircraft manufacturers like Airbus. The cost of hedging options would be extremely high and eliminate all or part of their earnings. So this is why banks tend to find cheaper hedging solutions for treasurers. And it's in this context of reducing the cost of premiums that we use barrier options. So what is a barrier option? A barrier option is an instrument that activates or deactivates, depending on the movement of the underlying. So here it's an activating call at 125 and deactivating at 134. The interest of barrier options is that their existence is enabled or disabled depending on whether the underlying reaches or not a preset level. For a barrier option, we need to define the strike of the option, here at 125, which is also the activation, and the deactivation barrier at 134. There are European and American barriers. With European barriers, the option is activated or deactivated only at the end of the exercise period. And for American barriers, the option is activated or deactivated during the life of the option, as soon as the level of the underlying touches that of the barrier. So with an American activating barrier call, the option will only be exercisable at maturity if at least once in the lifetime of the option, the price of the underlying has reached or exceeded a certain level. Similarly, for a European deactivating barrier put, the option will cease to exist if, at maturity, the price is below a level originally set during the life of the option. These options may be call options or put options and may be activated or deactivated if the price of the underlying asset passes above or below a limit value, the barrier. Barrier options are called by associating the type of option with the type of barrier, in or out. There are 8 kinds of barrier options. There are 12 kinds if you count the double no touch. So they're divided into 2 main types of options. The first type are knock-in options. The stock is activated and the right can be exercised if the price of the underlying reaches the barrier. And there are 2 types of knock-in options. The up and in option, where the option is activated when the price of the underlying reaches or exceeds the barrier, and the down and in option, where the option is activated when the price of the underlying reaches or falls below the barrier. There's also the double knock-in, which is literally a mix of an up and in and a down and in, so they can be activated twice if the price exceeds or falls below the barrier. So we have the knock-in options, and of course we have the knock-out options. So the knockout options, the option is deactivated and the option cannot be exercised if the price of the underlying has crossed the barrier. So we have the up and out option. The option ceases to exist when the price of the underlying reaches or exceeds the barrier. And the down and out option. The option ceases to exist when the price of the underlying reaches or falls below the barrier. And we also have the double knockout. Let's look at the strategy for our exporter, but not with a 130 call, a vanilla call, which would have had an expensive premium of 294 pips, but this time with a call of 130 activating at 137. But note here that the exporter's risk lies in the 130 to 137 area, where it won't be hedged. but also above 137, it's the same as if I'd bought a call at 130. And below 130, both of the options are identically inactive. The pricing of the option is 236 pips. So this is a reduction in the premium of 20%. This strategy could be perfect for our exporter. But most of the time, treasurers of large companies tend to move towards zero premium strategies that hedges them in certain areas but leaves some areas uncovered. And that's why we construct FX structured products.